Hello.
Hello,
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How's it going?
Good. So I took my sixth ketamine treatment and it went well. And the last time right before we I took the ketamine treatment, you're like, okay, well, what are you gonna replace it with besides, you know, secular Quranism? And so all you need to do is basically my thing is that you need to each principality or whatever would have to set up its own legal system with directives and prohibitions, right? Whatever they are. So
Hmm.
everyone comes up with their own directives and prohibitions. And then everyone would just, you have to come up with something, okay? Like there would, but you would get suggestions, right? Like no murder, like no theft, like this, but you'd also have a working understanding of what everyone else is doing. And so we could just steal each other's laws basically is basically what the beyondist system is all about stealing other people's laws and other people's cultural customs and other people's genes in order to kind of create the most stable society. But the thing is, throughout society we didn't need Allah to tell us don't murder. The pagans had laws against not murdering, they had laws against not stealing. So these are just common sense kind of laws that you would have. And then if somebody wants to steal Quranic law and make it so that you whip on unwed mothers and unwed fathers, then I guess you would let them do that. But is that something that everyone's going to emulate and copy from? Is the question.
Well, okay. So what you're describing is beyondism, and you're kind of saying it's wide open. Anybody can come up and set up a stall and be a beyondist and have this pick and mix system of rules. But you're kind of making it hard for. Well, I think you're prolonging the agony because, okay, what I'm trying to do is like, it's so easy. This is how you do it, and here it is. Rather than, oh, it's so easy, everybody can do it. And then you're basically going to keep everybody busy trying to set up their own system, and then they're just going to fight each other because they'll be saying my system is better than your system,
Well, yeah, I
which
mean,
is kind of what we have now.
you have to make, yeah, well, but but then it's better than if you set up one system, you're gonna have people that say I don't want that system and I want a different system, and then there'll be fights against them,
Yeah, yeah, but what I'm saying is shut up, you're stupid and you don't get it and you're not even no hide and you're an idolater and you're a blasphemer. So shut up and only decent people get to talk about this sort of thing.
well, that's gonna take a lot of pressure to maintain.
Well,
And
not really, because once you have it in place, it kind of maintains itself, you know. So I mean, this is what happens in a revolution, a successful one anyway. So you overthrow the previous system, and then you conduct a purge, and then you start telling everyone that things are going to be different from now on, and good people will be rewarded and subversives punished, and make sure the message is understood, and then go, hey, these are the rules. I mean, you've got to have everything ready. You can't go, oh, I'm the boss, but oh, just let me think about what the rules are going to be. You've got to have everything
well,
ready and
you
up and
like I
running.
said that I think that you got to make a recommended list, right? So there would be some kind of centralizing advisory board that would, basically say, well, okay, it is best not to allow murder. You know what I mean? And then, like, you would have different leagues of different systems that, okay, well, we accept each other's systems because we basically have a lot in common. We all forbid murder. We all forbid theft. We all forbid this. We all promote this. We all promote that. And then, there might be little differences in their laws that are less important or are more cultural, or they're, they could promote certain cultural practices. I mean, you want to not, it's not the no hide laws are all prohibitions. I'm saying you also want to make directives. So if you want your state to be a certain kind of religion, you would say that that's the religion of the state, and the state has to educate the people in this religion, and you would, you know, make different kinds of things in order to kind of promote your way of being. But as long as it, you weren't doing anything too crazy that the other societies wouldn't accept, then you would be in what, their circle of virtue. So you make courts that are in a circle of virtue.
Well, there would be courts anyway, right?
Well, yes, but instead of it all being, one court. But the thing is that we're all working together in order to have our separate societies, but at the same time live in peace um, and work together in order to find what's the best way of living, what's the best way of doing things. And the thing is that that would be an ever evolving system versus what you're promoting, which is a static, stays in place and that kind of thing. And
Sorry,
you know,
what do you mean? Why are you saying
secular Quranism
my
is
kind of thing is static?
a secular Quranism is just a set of 7, 8, 9, 10 principles or whatever it is that you incorporate into your government. And okay, like, I don't know. The thing is that those are just going to kind of stay there. This is not an evolving law. Quranic law is not an evolving law. There's certain laws in there that are just going to stay, and they're going to stay there forever. And, whereas the system that I'm promoting, it would evolve over time. Um, and there would just be, a basic like idea of at least certain kinds of laws that are basically good principles in order to follow. So you would have your circle of virtue, and then you would say, okay, look, these people allow murder. What do we think is going to happen to their society? We don't really want to trade with them or work with them, or we don't want to allow murder into our societies. So we can see what the obvious outcome of it is. So there's these these rational laws that you don't necessarily need a god to tell you about. And the idea of just having a culture of reproduction, no matter what your marital status is.
Right. So well, I mean, in order to make it clear to people, you have to say, secular Quranism is this, but my one is that, and choose. And I'm going to say my one is better because blah blah blah, and that would be, I guess, the way to do it, and then people can decide what they want to do, right? I would say the advantage of secular Quranism is that it is actually flexible because, obviously the Muslims themselves changed their own rules, or they changed the interpretation of their rules as they went along. And obviously they did something wrong, or they'd be the ones who are, with the global empire. But they obviously did something wrong, and it would be fairly easy to discover where they went wrong. And and also, even with the best will in the world, people will just sort of break their own rules because there is this sort of natural inclination to think, well, I'll get away with it. Nobody will notice, you know. So they do break their own rules. So for you to say, oh, it's going to be like that forever and ever, it's not true because people can't help but break their own rules. We
Well,
know this as
then you're making a
individuals.
legal system that you're expecting people to break, and that
No,
doesn't make
no, no, no. Okay. The interpretation will change over time, or there will be people who will attempt to change the interpretation for their own personal or or political reasons. But you can say here's a system to make sure that when it does change, it will be for the better rather than worse, and you know, and just deal with all the questions that are going to be raised, from hopefully an educated and rational audience. But we haven't got that because all we have is morons and vegetables. But I mean, obviously, the idea is to take it to somebody who's actually in charge, and for intelligent questions to be asked. I mean, I've debunked your claim that all these theocracies, stay the same. I mean,
Well,
they
that's because they don't, like you
haven't.
said, they're not following their principles. So why set up these principles if you're just saying, well, people aren't going to follow them anyway, and that's a good thing. You know what I mean? It's
No, no,
oh,
I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying people will will have their own ideas over the generations and think, oh, this is all a bit old-fashioned. Let me just give it a bit of a refurbishment and modernization and whatever. And this will inevitably happen, but you need a balance of, you know, I think a balance between the old and the young. I mean that is what is necessary, because I think what people hate is the laws changing for no good reason, and until they don't know whether they're coming or going.
well, I think that you want to. Well, let me just because I do want to talk about the ketamine treatment because well, basically it was that, and then so if people need a spirituality, I am looking into that Ludendorff woman. There was a pamphlet. I still don't understand her, but the thing is that someone must understand her because she does have followers, and I think that probably I have a hard time understanding her because I'm not that well. There's a certain level of philosophy that I'm not on the level to understand. And the thing is, the difference between me and you is that I realize, even though I'm not interested in all that, that other people are interested in that. And that if you're not providing that, then they're going to look for it somewhere else. So I'm saying, okay, so for your spiritual side, you need something spiritual. You need to believe in God. You need to believe in the divine. You need to think about different kinds of things, then use her philosophy. The one thing I like about her is that it's more like this world, and she basically was saying, look, there's a certain what that which you cannot comprehend, don't bother with it, and bother with what you can comprehend, and bother with that kind of God instead, because basically she said she was really against mysticism, but she seemed to give some kind of understanding of God and some kind of will to live, and some kind of understanding of immortality that a lot of people need. So I'm saying, okay, so beyondism with courts a is basically the philosophy that you would use for your legal system, and basically all I have to do is make start creating a list of recommendations, which wouldn't be that long, and like no murder, like no theft, like no animal cruelty, maybe not sexual regulations, but which Cattell was against homosexuality to a certain degree, but okay, so you have that's your legal system. And so basically, people are going to want to rob from democracy, and some people are going to want to rob from fascism, and they're going to want to create their own kind of legal system. And, that's that. And then you leave the society to itself to see how well it does. And, if a society's doing really well, then you'll just take it. And, why is it, the thing is that nothing is stopping a beyondist nothing is stopping anyone in any country from practicing beyondism, because any government could steal a law from another country. and nobody is stealing Islamic law. And when they very well easily could, I mean, there's, they could just say, well, these seem to be laws that really work in Islamic countries and really do well. And we would like to import them here and just implement them in a secular way. But nobody, you know, wants to do that. And so, and I guess probably in the Beyondist system, people wouldn't become Islamic because, at least certain groups would become Islamic because they don't want to incorporate the Islamic system and, or Islamic law or Islamic practices or Islamic culture or theology. And so it would die out from, um, lack of marketability.
Well,
So,
there's 1.9 billion Muslims, right? I mean, we
well,
have to remember
yes,
the. Hmm?
yes, but it's also a coercive religion, not in that it
Yes, but
necessarily.
religions are coercive because they are meant to regulate our behavior with rules and restrictions. I'm not even denying that, and I'm saying people didn't just sort of voluntarily think, oh, well, I'm going to regulate my own behavior. I think it's over time they sort of realize that, they and others around them need to follow some kind of law for their own safety and protection. It's not because they want to be regulated. They just saw that it is necessary that they be regulated, or other people who see the point of regulating their behavior will come in and take over. And this is happening even now as we speak to white people.
Well,
You're complaining about Jews and Muslims and Hindus and
well,
Chinese.
it's okay. So in these laws, since it is a eugenic religion, in these recommended laws, right, would be recommendation about maintaining a birth rate. And right now, look, if America said, if the government said we want to increase the birth rate in the population in America instead of immigrating, then they would have to start enacting policies for that. If it was part of the ideological framework, part of the Constitution to maintain a healthy birth rate, then things would be different. So, yeah, things would be different if our purpose was to, create strong biological stock. Yes, they would probably use marriage, but they might use other ways as well. And the thing is that, so like with Mathilda Ludendorff's philosophy, it seems that, I don't really understand, but it seems the way that you get immortality is through reproduction, which I guess is a way to kind of, get people into reproducing. And that's just a cultural way to get people to reproduce. But
By making marriage a duty.
well, you could make it, yeah, you could make, well, yeah, you want to promote in this system, yes, even I right now, I guess, would promote marriage because it seems like people are just too dumb. I think that, having selective breeding in non-traditional family situations is not for everyone. I don't think everyone can handle it at this point in time. And people just seem incapable of rearing children properly when they're not, whatever, married to each other. And but also other ways of doing it, like investing in artificial womb technology, like, I don't understand, there's nothing stopping the United States government from having its own breeding program for its own soldiers and its own, everything that, there's nothing really stopping it. um
But perhaps they're too afraid of the feminists.
well, there's nothing in the Constitution that says the government can't breed its own, you know, people.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you could, like, I
and,
mean,
and obviously would be done the traditional way. Um,
No, I'm talking about something a little bit more like, well, I guess making incentives. I would think of something like, in giving, like women who don't want to get married, but then, they could be, you could just, if they take a certain kind of sperm from the government, they would get tax breaks and things like that. I mean, there's lots of different kinds of things, but if you just generated a concern in the biological quality of the human race, then things would automatically start to change. And, yeah, my hope is that it's not so traditional and that they think of like, more untraditional ways. And then hopefully, I mean, yeah, the big hope is technology comes in. And if we can get these artificial wombs, then the whole problem is solved. You know what I mean? Like, the only thing that I have to wait on that, I know all these other programs. That's why I'm not trying to take over the whole world with, non-traditional breeding systems. I'm not trying to make everyone live in a gay commune and, breed that way, because that would just not work, because most people are not on that level. And I'm saying for a few people until it becomes tenable, and we have to do it until hopefully we get that technology. If we can't get that technology, then just become, through just become an elite, a small elite that have disproportionate amount of control. And you have that because your culture and your society and your laws and your religion are superior to other people's, and you have an advantage. So at least you get that. But if the technology comes along, yeah, then you can just outbreed the rest of humanity and take over.
Okay, but I mean, you do sort of understand that people will regard your proposal as very experimental, and
Well,
you
it's
know,
not experimental until it's not. Well, it doesn't. Yeah, people do experiments all the time. It's not going to matter if a few hundred children, are born into a communal living breeding program type of situation. That's not going to destroy the earth, and it wouldn't be for everyone. Until, yeah, and then when the technology came out, yeah, that would be, we'd have to see how that works when the vast majority of the world is born in incubators, or at least, there's a competing system there. Like, how would that change things? um
but I think what you're missing about marriage is the component of commitment. So it's not just and for heterosexual couples, it is, it's all that stuff about till death do us part, and that kind of thing. So because it's quite easy for heterosexuals to have sex and then just abandon their children because they just wanted to have the sex bit and they weren't interested in paying for the kids bit. And if you allow this sort of thing, then a lot of children will be abandoned, traumatized, and they won't be productive citizens of the future. Which is why, once upon a time, the idea of good parenting was considered a virtue and something that the government was supposed to support. So these things were
yeah.
not exactly unknown. It is a long-term investment. Marriage is a long-term partnership, and it's
No,
easy to
I
get
said
things
it.
wrong.
Yeah, well, it's very hard to maintain it when people have options and you have technology and the women have money, and it's just a lot of
Yeah, that's why you need to rearrange the furniture to make things work for men again. Because right now the situation is women don't want to put up with crap by men, and men don't see why they have to put up with crap by women because they can go around having sex, never having to commit to any woman because there's always some dumb slut, prepared to have sex with them for free. So this is to do with the price of sex.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm just saying, well, the thing is that, I mean,
I know it's difficult. I'm sure lots of
what
people over the centuries have tried to think of ways of getting around this. Damn, I don't want to live with somebody for the rest of my life and bring up the children. I'm sure you're not the only one to have thought about. Well, wouldn't it be nice? for people to have enjoy free love and not have to look after their kids.
Well, yeah, I mean, the point is to try to create a system where you can have both, and with collective child rearing, and where it's not based on love, and that's what I'm basically
It
trying to.
sort of worked when humans were nomads, I suppose, because if you were nomadic and you were part of the group, you'd all eat together and travel together, and they try to protect you, and you'd know to stick with your group. But once people settled down, they had other ideas. It's like, well, I want my farm to go to my sons, not yours. You know, so that was why I imagine after the agricultural revolution, when people settled down to farm, it was like, well, I want my farm to go to the children of the marriage and not my wife's lover, who isn't me.
Well, it's just to use modern science and technology and psychology
Yes,
and
yes, but what you're saying is okay. Supposing that the technology you wanted became available, these artificial wombs and these gay men. But the problem with for gay men would still be that the first child they have would not have the DNA of both of them.
no, yeah,
It
you would
would
just
just
have
be
its
the
own.
DNA of one of them.
Yeah, I know. So, yes, well, it's just that the child is, yes, owned by one man, and yes, it's a single father, and I'm saying that's probably better than, the thing is that you, but you harp on that that people are only going to. This is a situation where people are not stressed out that it's being done more on a community level. So you're saying that if they're not related to the child, they're not going to take care of it, but it's not like they have to take care of it all day long.
Well, I don't know who you think is going to look after it all day
Well, you
long.
have the father that can look after it at times, and when the father's not there, there would be, a communal party there of people that would watch after the child. And I don't believe that, these people that, it's just the thing is that you wouldn't watch after a child. You're the one that said that if your child was disabled, you wouldn't allow it to live in the house. So I think that you lack a certain degree of empathy where you're going to want to take care of another person's
Well, I'm
child.
being
Whereas
honest. I mean,
I don't think other people lack that degree of empathy.
they're mostly hypocrites. They're going to get all, outraged that you say you would reject a disabled offspring, but they probably themselves have no plans to get married or even have children, so they can talk big.
Yeah, but I don't think everyone is like you, and I think certain people would have affection for a child that's not necessarily theirs. I think that teachers in schools get affection for children that are not theirs, and I think, when I was a child, somebody wanted to adopt me because they thought my mother was a bad mother. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
that's sweet.
yeah, well, people the thing is that people can care for children that are not their own. They're not monsters, and I most people aren't monsters, and most people don't molest children, and most people don't do these kinds of heinous things that you say are going to be happening. Like, you catastrophize the whole thing, like as
No,
if.
no. Okay, today I was, and this is about biological parents. It's like parents these days, they can't even stop themselves from watching porn when their children are around. That's how bad they are. And it's towards their own biological offspring. So you just have no idea how people are going to behave anymore. You know,
But
you,
I know, but that doesn't necessarily. If yes, you can be abused by your biological parents just as easily as someone else.
Okay, yeah, you're going to say that, but at least it stays in the family, I guess. So
That's
what you're
yeah.
saying is
What
you're going to lessen the likelihood of abuse. You're going to use traditional methods of child rearing, so it's not experimental. I mean, look at it this way: if I invited you over for dinner, would you feel more honoured as a guest if I said, "Oh, this is a wonderful family recipe," blah blah blah, or this is just something I cooked up, on the spur of the moment. Here, have this to eat and see what you think. I haven't even tasted it. I mean,
well,
there's just no
it's
argument
it's
about which you're going to be to feel happier
okay.
eating.
No, this is like there's some new experimental way of doing thing that a few people are trying out, and if it works, it'll take off. Like, it's okay for a few people to experiment. It's not going to.
Yeah, yeah, there are plenty of people who have already experimented. All these gay men who have hired surrogates and, Elton John and what's his name and, a few others. Well, we'll just keep tabs on them and say, hey, how is it going for you as parents, as gay male parents?
Well, I think that they're not doing it the right way, but I mean, I don't think that, well, we don't know if these children that are raised in gay households are messed up or not. I don't know what the studies
Well,
are.
shouldn't we find out?
Well,
Shouldn't
yeah,
we have the means of finding out? You're not even trying to find out. It's
but
like you don't even care, or if you
well,
don't want
no, it's
the results to be
I do
known.
care, but I mean, the thing is that I mean, I would think that if there were major studies out, homophobes would be quoting them constantly that, oh well, they're more likely to go to jail and they're more likely to get STDs and they're more likely to have
Well,
this.
you could yourself, since you so enjoy research and investigation and whatever, shouldn't you be,
Well, I'll look into it
finding
further.
out who these people are and you know inviting them on your channel to ask them how it's going.
Well,
Well,
it's
that's
hard to
what
find
I'd
people
do
that
if
were
I
raised
were
by, I
you.
mean, not everyone was raised by gay parents. I would have to search that out. And then I'd be more likely to look up different kinds of studies. Like, how do they compare in education and jail time and this on welfare? Like, those
Yeah,
types
yeah, and
of
actually
things.
ask them in a real life
Well,
conversation
no, I
how
would like to
things are
find
going for
statistics.
them.
I don't want to find anecdotal evidence. I'd rather see
Well,
statistics.
you
But
do a bit of both because then it becomes real for people who are interested in the
well,
subject.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, if I come across someone raised in a gay household that wants to come on my show, I'll talk to them. But I think it would.
There should be a register.
Well, the important part is to see statistically if anyone's done any studies to see how children in gay households perform.
Yeah, and the thing is, that they're probably not that old. They'll be in their teens, maybe their 20s. I don't even know. Maybe that should be the focus of your investigations rather than this Mathilde Ludendorff
Well,
woman who is right of the Nazis.
I'll look into it. I mean, I do find it surprising that if there are studies out there that say, oh God, children raised in gay households are 10 times more likely to go to jail or, drop out of college or this types of, different kinds of things. I'm sure, lots of people would love to quote those studies. So I'll look into it, you know what I mean? But if I don't find anything, I'm not going to be, too concerned about it.
Yeah, yeah. So what I would do if I were you is to look up objective measurements of success.
Yeah, that's what I just said I would do.
Great, great. But I mean, I really think that if people feel that they're being your guinea pigs, they're not going to take to your idea.
Well, the thing is that this is for people that don't like the way they were raised normally and who would think that there's a better way of doing it. And so, yes, there are people who don't like it the traditional way. There's tons of people who don't like tradition. And I'm going for people who don't like tradition. I'm not, going for people that want to, you know, do
Do
it the
things
old.
traditionally, but don't you think, Vincent, that if if your parents hadn't even been married, things would be even worse for you.
Well,
Or if neither
well,
of them had
maybe
been
no, it would have
religious,
been
it would
better.
be even
It
worse.
would have been better if they were unmarried, but with people who they were compatible with, than to be married to someone you're incompatible with. So, no, it would have been better. It would have been better that to them for them to be with the right girlfriend or boyfriend than to be with the wrong husband and
Well,
wife.
I think everybody kind of gets fed up with their spouse, especially if they've been with them for a number of years. So this is kind of inevitable. But people who take marriage seriously would just soldier on. Well, people who don't will just say, "Well, I'm off."
Yeah, well, it's just that we have, the only way that people are going to do it your way is if the whole society collapses and nobody has a choice. You know, that's the only way that
Well,
it.
yes, so maybe people do need to be coerced. I mean, the whole idea of staying in one's lane, that there should be lines
Coerced by who?
by the state, of course.
And who in the state is going to coerce these things?
Well, obviously somebody who cares about the people and the national interest.
Well, this is going to, take an army to inflict, and
Well, not necessarily. I mean, everybody's so pessimistic, but look. If you have a good idea, then you would have to promote it, right? You promote your ideas quite consistently, and I think I do the same thing. And there are different ways of promoting it. So if people don't like it, you ask them, well, have they got a better idea? And every time they complain about their government, you pop up and say, well, how about a little bit of secular Quranism or whatever? And it doesn't matter if they get annoyed and they hate your idea. The point is that it's okay as long as you get to make your point that, nobody has been able to debunk the basis of your solution.
Claire, I might black out for a minute. So if I disappear, I'll be right back.
Okay. I can hear you filling up a bucket. That's what I thought I heard. So there's nobody in the chat. But never mind.
Just keep talking for the next 2 minutes.
I will keep talking about the experimental nature of Vincent's proposals. And I'm saying he doesn't understand that secular Quranism will not be horrible for him or his partner. And all, I mean, everybody's going to, have their furniture rearranged and their rooms tidied, and maybe not in the way that they like, but in order for us to live in an orderly society, we have to be prepared to make sacrifices for the greater good, and the greater good is the national interest. And since Western governments are so crazy and stupid and evil, I don't see what the problem is with accepting that we don't want any more experimental stuff, because what our governments have been giving to us for the past, 50 years or so has been extremely experimental. And it's been so experimental that it's driving us crazy. And I mean, whoever heard of a government openly encouraging mass immigration, even though their people, scream and yowl and complain and cry? Um, I don't think anybody has ever heard of such a thing. Um, or if anybody can think of a time in history when this was allowed by governments, let me know. But obviously, people are unhappy, and I'm saying that the only reason why the government gets to do all these things to us without us being able to organize against it is because we lack the social and moral hierarchy of the patriarchy. Because the patriarchy would at least have an organizational structure which means beta males choose an alpha male to represent their interests. And this system would implicitly exclude women from having a say in choosing their leader, because universal suffrage has actually been the cause of all this chaos. Because if you allow women to vote, then obviously political parties would have to pander to the female voter. And the female voter, as long as she lives with her husband or her father, will be, quite reasonable in that she will see her financial interests as being tied up with her protector and provider, i.e., her father or her husband. But once she starts to live apart from her husband or her father, she will see her interests as being in competition with the men she doesn't live with. And this is essentially the problem. And maybe Vincent doesn't quite see it this way because he doesn't have much interaction with women, because he's gay and doesn't have sex with them, and maybe has a rosy view of the feminine psyche.
Well, no, I'm saying that the whole institution is very unstable because no one is truly happy in it. And
Well, nobody can be truly happy anyway.
Well, you can make it better. You can, you can make your pain less.
To make it happier means to make it more stable. That's how I see how it is, how you would improve things. But you're not. You're just gonna, conduct this experiment on traumatized people. Because that's what you're doing, Stephen, Vincent. And unfortunately, men lack the ability to organize themselves because they don't have a religion. And I'm saying, okay, there are 5 religions, 5 world religions, and they all support marriage because over the centuries of human existence, they worked out that it's the only way to keep your group in existence and apart from others, to keep your country, your religious group, or what, so that's what you have to do. And if your moral system doesn't even support marriage, then you're basically doomed. And you're kind of getting the idea when you just suddenly notice that all the foreigners are taking over. And in fact, there is in the book of Deuteronomy what it is like when Jews disobey God's laws. Are you familiar with chapter 28 of the book of Deuteronomy?
Well, he said he would punish them.
Well, he would curse them. But if you haven't read it, I think you would enjoy reading them. Do you have time to read them?
What verses are they?
From chapter 28, curses for disobedience.
Deuteronomy chapter 28?
Yes. So Jehovah's Witnesses only concentrate on the New Testament?
No, they're very old. They're very into the Old Testament.
Okay.
Blessings for obedience, curses for oh yeah, this is the one that, this is very long, but I know it's like you'll see horrible things and people will turn. It's horrible.
I know.
Horrible.
Did I tell you that when I visited a synagogue on Open London Day, that was years ago, but anyway, the idea is that you're allowed to visit all these buildings that are normally closed to the public. So I visited the synagogue in East London with a friend, and they were supposed to read that, and the person, the Jew who was supposed to show us around said, "Oh no, I can't read this to you. It's full of curses." And then I went, "Oh, come on, there's no need to be like that." And he said, "No, and I thought, why is he going on like that? Because technically, these Christians have already culturally appropriated the Old Testament. So why is he kind of, putting up all these trigger warnings and then deciding that we're not grown up enough to hear it? So I asked his rabbi, and he said, "Just tell me when it was, and I'll tell you what verses they were." So he told me, and that was how I discovered it.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever read the whole Bible?
Oh, not all of it, no. But I read the whole of the Quran, but not all of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to read it?
No, it's too long.
Okay. I think you should read it. I mean, aloud. And then comment on it. I think we'd enjoy that stream.
Yes, we can do that. I'm a little bit tired now, but yes, we can do that.
All right. Do you have to go?
No, I don't have to go, but
Okay, so we won't make you read. I mean, this is what I'm trying to say. People, when they're feeling nervous, they don't want to say, "Oh, this cure, it's a bit experimental." Nobody's really tried it, and but you'll be the first guinea pig, aren't you? Honored? They're not.
I'm not going for the masses. You're going for the masses. I'm not going for the masses.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, I want it done ASAP. So I'm just going to go for the normie.
Well, usually profound new
I'm a
thinking.
married parent, basically.
Well,
Or the normie who's complaining about immigration and getting scared at the craziness and stupidity and the evilitude of their government. I mean, aren't you scared? Do you think your government knows what it's doing? Do you think they're conducting a horrible experiment on you?
Not because of liberalism, I think, it's hard because, it's just the way the system is set up that heterosexuals can't really survive liberalism because they stop breeding, they use too much birth control, they can't stay married, they can't raise their kids, it's like a mess. So, it's just you have to kind of like change the way the system is set up. And if you can't do that, then you're going to win, Claire. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
But this is an English expression about men and women who say about each other, you can't live with them and you can't live without them. So obviously over the centuries they've decided that they don't really like each other, and but they still have to they have to marry and have children with each other, or their group will die off. Their country, their countrymen. Okay, the entire country would die off, because if they didn't have children, then they become an aging and shrinking society, and their neighbors, knowing this, would come and invade them and take their stuff. So so they'd have to do that, and credit where credit's due. The Pope said, well, not this Pope, but a Pope, I think in the 60s, said that Catholics must never use a pill. They must never use a pill. Well, they're not even supposed to use contraception, but they're certainly not supposed to use a pill, because the Pope anticipated, before all this sort of this trauma over declining birth rates. The Pope already understood in his wisdom that if you give the pill to people, that they're just going to have a low birth rate. Because I think everybody, imagine if you were heterosexual, and imagine you thought, or somebody put it to you that every time you had sex with a woman, you would have a child. It would be horrible. You'd have maybe, thousands of children, maybe, and you wouldn't know what to do with them. And the only way to cope with them would be like this sort of spider, with her spiderlings. The spiders carry all these eggs on their backs, and then when they hatch, she just lets them hatch, and then she walks off. She's not looking after them because there's so many of them anyway. But the idea is like, well, some of them are going to survive. I mean, do we want to live like that?
No. I mean, but that's why they invented birth control, because people were having too many children.
Well, I mean, at least the government can say, well, the birth rate is too low, and we're going to raise the age, the number of the children a married couple is supposed to have before we will give you the pill. I mean, they could do that. It's like, oh, you've got 4 children. Well done. You deserve the pill now. But actually, I think it was yesterday that I came across a Daily Mail report by reporting that Putin says Russians have got to have 8 children at least because of the war.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and I can imagine, all these white people, the blood draining from their faces, thinking, how am I going to have 8 children around me? That's, I don't want to be the Waltons. Did you ever watch that?
Yeah, the Waltons. Yes. Oh, they had that written. Yeah, no, it's kind of, 8 children is absurd. And no one in Russia can afford 8 children.
But I think Putin has some sort of award system. Like if you have, X number of children, you're going to get, some prize or something. A bit like what Hitler was doing. That there was some kind of Iron Cross or, the German mother or something like that. But basically, it's not just women who don't want to have that many children. Men don't want to have to support that many children either.
No, they don't want to have to, and that's the problem. And
well, exactly. So if you don't encourage them, if you don't support them, they just won't do it. So if you want to keep your race and your country going, you have to, at least just submit to a lowering of your status to say, well, well done, married people, married parents who sacrifice your coolness and your leisure to have children. We salute you, but thank goodness we gay people don't have to do it. But if you want everything, if you want equal status and all the rest of it, then nobody will want to do it, and then the situation will get worse. Because when enough people were having children, I mean, it's like, nobody's going to be too mean to you if you're gay or if you want to, spend the rest of your life in a monastery or whatever, because, mothers would say, oh, well, at least I've got, other sons and whatever. But if they only have one, of course, they're not going to be happy if it's conscripted, her only child is conscripted and dies in some war. Which is what's going to happen to the Chinese now with their one-child policy. I mean, they really mess things up. And they can't do this. Well, they can't change people's beliefs enough to make them behave in a different way. Because have I told you about Chinese ancestor worship and how they used to frighten Chinese people into having lots of sons?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. And the thing about Chinese ancestor worship is that you don't even have to believe it to be true to use it to shame other people. Like, oh, you don't have any children. Well, you're going to be a hungry ghost the moment you're dead. You know, you don't have any sons. You're going to be a hungry ghost the moment you pop your clogs. You know, or you only have one son, and and he's not married. Well, you're not going to, remain a worship ancestor. What, for long. Oh, you've had all your sons, but they all died. Well, you're not going to be, you're going to be a hungry ghost the moment you're dead. It's like it was useful to frighten Chinese parents into having more sons. And then the competition would mean settling of, well, farming. It would mean, farming and competition and that sort of thing. And that, I guess, um, made China more competitive. Uh, because you really kind of need a population bulge in order to expand your empire. So I don't think there is any sort of nice and easy way, but I don't think we're going to be okay. Nobody's going to marry me in order to have more children. So I am thankfully um, you know not going to be kind of conscripted into becoming a brood mare for some man, but for women of the next generation, at least we will be doing them a favor by telling them how things are and what they will always be like, and creating the conditions for them to protect themselves from no fault divorce and that sort of thing, without necessarily being forced to marry and have and have children ourselves. So I just don't see why people who won't actually have to suffer can't just support the principle of married parenting and no fault divorce, and the abolition of no fault divorce. I mean, at least we'll be showing people that we're prepared to make sacrifices for the greater good.
Well, it's just that they don't want to force other people to live like that because they don't want to live like that. So they don't want to tell other people they have to live like that.
No, the thing is, if there were a population bulge, then there'll be enough people, and nobody will be looking at you. Oh, you're gay. Oh, you only have one child. You're not doing your bit, kind of thing. Because in the end, it will be confirmed bachelors who will be rounded up and forced to pay some kind of bachelor tax, as the Romans did do or were thinking of doing. Because they knew way back then that their empire depended on having enough men of fighting age prepared to join the Roman army. And when they couldn't find anyone anymore, they had to rely on mercenaries. And mercenaries would be, well, they wouldn't do the job properly. It would be very expensive and a long process. So, as they say, demographics is destiny. But I just don't see what the harm is in acknowledging this biological and social fact. I mean, do you like the idea of space exploration, or do you think it's humanity getting beyond its boots?
No, I'm not against it.
Okay, so you would have to have a moral system that allows technology to be shared amongst the different races and nations of humanity, and for there to be cooperation and law and order. you would have to support that in order to facilitate eventually space exploration. But if you're going to just sort of make people, go crazy and go back in time to primitive ways of doing things and chaotic ways of doing things, then we're not going to be space explorers, or I mean, I really don't see how it is going. I think you will be given credit, Vincent. I'll certainly give you credit for it if you, just understand the writing on the wall. And also, it's not like you're a young man of 19 or something, and somebody's going to grab you and force you to marry a woman. You can be, the one in charge of protecting, domestic partnerships. I mean, after all,
I dropped out.
Yeah, I was just saying that you could be you could be put in charge of protecting the domestic partnerships of, people. And you have experience because you've had a long-term relationship. I'm not just giving you the job because you're my streaming partner. And I think Muslims okay, I'm going to be frightening these Muslims into supporting secular Quranism, because I'm sure they're terrified of, having the DNA of their children and grandchildren and descendants being merged into this, globo homo. I'm sure they didn't migrate to the West to have that done to them. So they will have an interest in supporting secular Quranism, the ones who've moved to the West. And I think your becoming a secular Quranist will be persuasive for them. I mean, my problem has always been that, nobody will support it with enough commitment. I mean, Carol was just not particularly reliable, but then we have to, excuse her because she's female and, doesn't want to be seen to be too radical, I suppose.
Okay. Yeah, we've gone for about an hour, so why don't we cut it there?
All right.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Bye.